Breaking news tonight out of Maine, where a move by the Secretary of State has made Maine the first state to officially remove Donald Trump from the ballot on 14th Amendment grounds. In a ruling just moments ago, Secretary of State Sheena Bellows writes, quote, specifically, I find that the declaration on his consent form is false because he is not qualified to hold office of the president under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. Bellows added, I conclude that the record establishes that Mr. Trump, over the course of several months and culminating on January 6, 2021, used a false narrative of election fraud to inflame his supporters and direct them to the Capitol to prevent certification of the 2020 election and the peaceful transfer of power. I likewise conclude that Mr. Trump was aware of the likelihood for violence and at least initially supported its use, given he both encouraged it with incendiary rhetoric and took no timely action to stop it. This now comes a day after Colorado's Republican Party has asked the United States Supreme Court to overturn Colorado's ruling barring Trump, which basically means Trump will appear on that state's ballot for now. And late today, the High Court was asked to fast-track its review of the Colorado ruling by the 6 Colorado voters who brought the lawsuit to bar Trump from the ballot in the first place. Joining me now is Colorado Secretary of State Jena Griswold. So glad to have you here. Before we even talk about your state, let's try and unpack some of this breaking news out of Maine. What is your reaction to this move and what it means for the future of all of these 14th Amendment challenges?
Well, good evening. Thank you for having me on. And honestly, I think it's great that Sheena Bellows, the Secretary of State of Maine, followed the Colorado Supreme Court in deciding that Donald Trump is disqualified from the ballot. Look, it's very clear that Donald Trump engaged in an insurrection. It is also very clear the language in the Constitution, which says that if someone swears to uphold the Constitution and then engages in insurrection, they cannot be placed in office again. So I do think the Secretary of State of Maine did the right thing. And in Maine, it is her job to make this decision. She also recognizes that it's very likely it's going to be appealed. And like in Colorado, has put a stay, so a hold on her decision to allow the appellate process to play out.
So, Secretary Griswold, I'd like to ask you, you know, we're expecting, or actually, no, I won't say that. Donald Trump has yet to file an appeal in front of the Supreme Court regarding the Colorado case. I should not presume. Do you expect that he will, number one? And do you have any sense what he may put as the issues in front of the court if he does file an appeal?
Donald Trump's lawyers have indicated they'll file something, whether that's their own appeal or joining the appeal already filed, I cannot say. And if they continue to follow the argument they followed in the lower courts, I'm sure he'll want to contest the fact that 2 courts now have decided that he engaged in insurrection. Whether or not he's on the ballot, I think there's a couple things that are really important. Number one, that the United States Supreme Court considers the urgency of the time and acts quickly, whether that means denying a review of the case or making decisions. But number two, whether he's on the ballot or not, he is a danger to this country. And we are only here because he tried to steal the presidency from the American people in 2020.
How important do you think the Supreme Court actually weighing in on this issue is? Because without clear direction from the court, it seems like we could be headed to a space where come election day, he's on the ballot in some states and not on in others, which could be chaotic for a number of different reasons beyond simply being unprecedented. So are you looking forward in a way to the Supreme Court getting involved?
I'm looking forward to certainty. My job as Secretary of State is to make sure that Coloradans have great elections, Republicans, Democrats, and unaffiliateds alike. And I have to certify who will be on the ballot next week, Friday, for the presidential primary. So we are really urging the court to act quickly. And whether that means that they decide not to review or they do review the case, well, that's up to them. But I also agree with Secretary Bellows in Maine and the Colorado Supreme Court. They've gotten it right. Donald Trump engaged in an insurrection, and because of that, he should be disqualified by the Constitution from appearing on any ballot or serving as president again.